Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Visa Everywhere Initiative, India 2020, in association with CNBC TV18.
Hello and welcome to this first of its kind fintech challenge, which we are calling the Visa Everywhere Initiative. Actually, this is an initiative taken by Visa to entice, or should I say, incentivize startups in India to network, to bring the culture of fintech to more and more people and energize the financial sector in the country. Solve payment challenges, get more people onboarded onto the national payment grid, and generally make us all smart in terms of payment. Basically, harnessing the startup power. A very interesting fintech challenge is what this Visa Everywhere initiative is all about. And today, to explain to us more about what is this Visa Everywhere initiative and generally what is the status of financial technology in India and how it has been able to integrate itself and improve the financial sector. I have with me Mr. TR Ramachandran, Group Country Manager, India and South Asia at Visa, and Arvind Ronta, the Vice President, Head of Products, India and South Asia for Visa. Arvind and Ram, thank you very much indeed for joining. Well, Ram, let me start with you. First, the broader perspective. Where India has reached in terms of using technology in everything finance. I mean, whether it is payments, whether it is data mining, where are we in the scheme of things?
Firstly, in terms of where India is, I think India is a very, very interesting stage in its journey, both in terms of the overall finance architecture as well as digital payments, innovation fueled by investments, and what the government is trying to do and a whole set of ecosystem players are trying to do. Fintech investments in India have doubled to close to $3.7 billion in 2019. As you're very well aware, there's a whole range of players who are wanting to participate in the ecosystem. And this in turn has meant that the ecosystem itself is increasing magnifold, right? So whichever area you look at it, if you talk about the India stack, which everyone is intimately familiar with, if you talk about what the government is trying to do in terms of digitization, if you talk about what private players are trying to do in terms of digitization, it's really exciting, the kind of initiatives which regulators, stakeholders, and private participants are taking. That's what makes it particularly appealing from our perspective.
Can you point out to us some features of this harnessing of technology? And we know that the government has done that through UPI and BHIM and other systems. We know that banks are constantly using fintechs and often with a doubt whether the fintech will take away their business. Nevertheless, we can see that they're integrating them in a big way. Can you point out some highlights of this harnessing of technology by both governments and banks in particular?
So I think it's fair to say that demonetization got the first sort of fillip into digital payments and fintech, and suddenly it became a hot area and everybody wanted to participate in the fintech pie. Now, whether it's solving for acceptance, whether it is digital credentials, or whether it's making customers use digital currency as opposed to physical currency, all three things are sort of happening at the same time. If we talk about the RBI, and let's start with the regulator as always, the RBI has actually a vision, which this Department of Payment and Settlement Systems actually came out with, in terms of making it convenient, in terms of making it simple, as well as in a sort of onus on cybersecurity, which is sort of really important from an Indian consumer's viewpoint. And then banks started building layers on top of that. And to your earlier point on whether banks really saw fintechs as somebody who takes over their business or eats their lunch, I think that was the first sort of bite at the cherry. When because this started in the US, right? Everybody's saying, I'm going to disrupt this and I'm going to disrupt something or the other. But actually, very, very interestingly, in India, it is actually about fintechs and banks working in collaboration to grow the ecosystem. Because unlike the US or the Europe, a big difference, which I want to point out, is it's a growing pie. Digital payments itself is 15% of personal consumption expenditure. So 85% is still in cash. So consequently, it's about opening the market as opposed to sort of cannibalization or having zero-sum games. which
No,
makes it
actually,
unique.
I was going to come to the financial inclusion bit with you, but let me get Arvind into the conversation. Arvind, if demonetization was one big trigger, COVID perhaps is an even bigger trigger because I guess people hitherto into cash may want to, get into digital payments or forced to get into digital payments. What's your sense? How has this progressed as an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, COVID definitely could be seen in a positive light as accelerating the trend in digitization that was already happening. So what COVID has done is it literally time warped the trend in increased digitization we were seeing in consumers getting online. Now, because of COVID and lockdown measures, consumers were forced to get online. A lot of folks are now buying groceries online. They're of course buying essentials online, and we believe that that trend will not go away completely. There's a lasting effect of that, and it's a huge opportunity for fintechs because if you are a fintech trying to solve for problems which is around increasing digital issuance, driving more people online, getting a lot of our merchants, which are in India, a long tail of merchants to the tune of 70
Mhm.
lakhs, 70 million actually an opportunity to digitize them. That's already happening. We are seeing more and more merchants are coming online, and a lot of
Mhm.
these fintechs working with us and our partners are developing solutions to make it easy for these merchants to come online and get more digital, help them get discovered online by customers, and then pay digitally in a much more secure and safe way.
Your thoughts, Ram, on inclusion. As you yourself began this chat by pointing out that 85% of the transactions are still in cash, there is also a large part of India which is still illiterate, literally, and even larger part which is financially illiterate, probably. Do you think we are making gains in terms of converting more people into financial literacy and fintech literacy?
I think that's a great call out of both financial literacy and fintech literacy, right? So a couple of, I think, decadal changes are happening. One is in terms of consumers' intent and willingness to use digital payments. Sometimes it's forced, like demonetization. Sometimes it's because of personal safety and, just feeling that it's more convenient. And ecosystem players are piggybacking on top of that. If you look at what the likes of Google, the likes of Paytm, the likes of PhonePe, et cetera, are doing is remarkable, right? You combine that with what is happening on the e-commerce front, where
Mm.
there are sort of industry reports which say that the number of people who will use e-commerce in one form or the other will go to about 650 million by 2023, which is a very, very high number. So I think our challenge as industry professionals in many ways is how can we make the whole fintech or digital payment sort of ecosystem as simple, as ubiquitous, as intuitive as using cash. If I pay you a 100 rupee note, it is pretty intuitive. Me making a payment to you ought to be that intuitive. If you make it any more complicated than that, people are not going to get it. So that's a big part of the consumer experience sort of journey which we have to solve for. And the second important stuff I cannot emphasize enough, apart from intuitiveness of customer experience, which is uber critical, is security. Because India is in such a nascent stage, there is a lot of hesitancy, there's a lot of skepticism.
Yes.
As people are gradually taking baby steps towards adopting it, you don't want a situation where people take one step forward, there is some sort of phishing attack, or then some sort of money goes out of your bank account and it says, see, I told you so. That's why I always wanted to do cash. So people take one step forward and two steps back. So it is in the ecosystem's larger interest. We have to solve for intuitiveness, we have to solve for ubiquity, and we have to solve for customer security. All these three things are really, really important, I think.
Arvind, I want to ask you about this security issue, but I want to flip the question before I come to the dangers to the positives. Are you seeing a lot of the financial sector players, banks, NBFCs, insurance, whoever, every one of them come to fintech or to players like Visa because it is making better due diligence, better data mining, actually getting attracted because it is increasing safety?
Absolutely. I think, when our clients and partners think of Visa, security is top of mind. Um, and just to put an analogy, right? When we think of security, it's in our DNA. Every product that we roll out is designed with keeping safety and security in mind, right? Like we would not compromise on security at all. Like that's just not who we are. So security by design is just a philosophy for all things we do. And of course, we recognize that as commerce happens more digital, there is going to be a fraud migration from physical to digital. That always happens in every market. So the bar is pretty high of ensuring that that there are no loopholes, no instances where cyber crimes or fraudsters can actually take advantage of. So we have huge investments that we make every year in our entire cybersecurity framework. We've constantly invested in AI and machine learning algorithms to get smarter on how to predict emerging threats from different parts of the world that we operate in. And what is it's lended to is that the partners that who are part of our ecosystem gets benefit of keeping their customers safer through products like what we push. We have products like tokenization. We have products like Visa Risk Manager. Those are designed to ensure that the consumer security and safety is paramount, and our partners can leverage the infrastructure that we have created, and it becomes much more safer as they push for more digital commerce. So yeah, in short, very important, and it's a huge part of what we do.
Actually, Arvind, Ram, we have to take a quick break, but I'm going to come back and ask about this Visa Everywhere initiative. I mean, we've always boasted that India is such a fertile ground of young minds who want through their startups, to contribute to technology, getting married to various aspects of human life. How successful or how hopeful is your Visa Everywhere initiative? What kind of startups are you hoping to harness and catch? All those questions to you in a minute after this break.
Visa Everywhere Initiative, India 2020, in association with CNBC TV 18.
Welcome back to this curtain raiser episode, Visa Everywhere Initiative, where Visa is actually casting its net far and wide to capture a lot of startups and incentivize them to contribute to the payment ecosystem or to generally improvements in the financial sector. I've been speaking with TR Ramachandran and to Arvind Ronta, both the top guns at Visa in India. Ram, what are you looking forward to in this edition of, or in this episode of the Visa Everywhere initiative? Are you getting a sense that Indian startups are up to it? We know about India Stack, but what are you expecting from the startups?
Visa Everywhere initiative, we launched this globally, Latha, and we've done it in across 6 continents. We've engaged about 6,000 startups globally that have collectively, I think, raised about $2.5 billion or so in funding so far. And then we sort of came to the country, but the response we've received has been spectacular. And you won't believe it. Apart from metros, we went to places like Sambalpur, and the sheer diversity of things that are happening in all things fintech is just remarkable. And people are solving at the apex of the pyramid, they're solving at the middle layer, and they're solving at the sort of mass of the pyramid. So that's one. I'd say the reception has been overwhelming. The quantum of things that young folks are solving for is sort of so heartening and so energizing to see. And the third thing is, and this is perhaps the most important thing, I don't think we are playing catch up anymore, right? As a country, I don't think we are sort of saying we want to be, 5 years ago, for example, somebody said, I want to be the Amazon of something, or I want to be the Uber of something, or whatever it is. But I think people here are looking at fintech, digital payment solutions, which are made in India, made for India, made from scratch, made de novo. And that to me was really, really exciting to see. And we got like close to 400 entries. And it's been a sort of hard-fought thing. But I mean, really, really exciting. As a payments professional, I'm really thrilled to be in this space.
Arvind, would that be your observation as well? Can you tell us about the nature of the participation that you have seen so far? Who are the people who have nominated themselves or put their hands up? And what are the areas that the Visa Everywhere initiative is covering? I mean, after all, fintech is such a vast space. Have you given people some specific themes, problems that they have to solve?
The way we designed this, Latha, was uh, we wanted to have these fintechs focus on the biggest roadblocks that exist for growing digital payments in India. And we created these three topics basis what we believed were some of the big three challenges. One was around how do you make it easy for on a consumer side to onboard more customers online. So we called it digital issuance and enabling credit access. So not only bringing people online, but enabling them more affordability when they come online. So digital as a way for faster payments and credit access. Number two challenge in India, of course, is the small merchant acceptance. We have a long tail of merchants who still are not accepting digital payments. And what we ask these fintechs to think of innovative solutions to how do we expand the acceptance footprint for digital payments in India. And I think we've gotten a lot of interesting ideas. And as we will talk about in a bit, some of the finalists really created some amazing solutions where, as an example, your smartphone could be an acceptance device and you could simply tap to pay using a smartphone. The third problem in India and in other markets as well is the cash that still exists in B2B supply chains. And this is where we've kind of innovated with fintechs and asked them to think of ideas where your account receivables, account payables, your supply chain flows are getting more and more digitized. So those were kind of the challenges that we threw at these participants. And just in terms of VEI as we are talking about it, it's been a journey. And last 3 years in India, we started off with launching a developer platform. We made a bunch of APIs. Then we launched Visa Ready program. What that did was, if you are an Indian fintech and wanted a global reach, you certify our solutions, you get certified, become basically a certified partner of Visa, and gave you visibility for your company, not just in India, but abroad as a trusted Visa partner. And then we recently launched Visa FinTech Fast Track. So if you want to get up and running with Visa fast, we can expedite you and in a matter of weeks versus several months it would have taken in getting the diligence. So a lot of investment has been done by our teams at Visa here to make it easier for fintechs to work with us, to innovate with us. And then on the other side, with our partners, to take advantage of our partnership with these fintechs to design some really solutions which are fit for purpose for India. And that's the goal, and I think that's what we're trying to do through VEI.
Ram, before we conclude this conversation, can you tell us some interesting episodes globally where a very interesting, or many interesting solutions were presented by startups at your Visa Everywhere initiative, which Visa could scale up, either with its own data or with its partners?
There are a ton of examples, but I think the thematic is basically around how do you make, I can think of some, democratizing credit and how do you make credit easily available was one sort of thing which is now scaled up in many parts of the world. Installment, how do you sort of slice a payment into installments and make it readily available at point of sale was another. A lot of solutions around merchant acceptance and the acceptance side of digital payments have scaled up. Interestingly, even some of the B2B on the business side, business to business, commercial payments have scaled up as well. And like I said, the diversity has never been larger than actually in India. And what the entries we've got, we're really thrilled. And we're looking forward to the finalists.
Ram, Arvind, this has been an extremely interesting conversation, and you have kind of whetted my appetite and the appetite of those who are watching this chat. Indian startups trying to solve many of the small and big problems that the financial sector faces, getting merchants who are hitherto shy of getting into digital platforms, getting them wedded to the digital platform, making them more efficient and giving banks a larger arena to play. And in the process, the pie itself is growing larger and India is becoming a more productive country. I am looking forward to listening to all those startups present their best solutions. And I'm sure the best of the best is going to be a killer product. Thank you very much, Ram and Arvind. And I look forward to the future episodes of Visa Everywhere Initiative.
Thank you.
Visa Everywhere Initiative, India 2020, in association with CNBC TV 18.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.